how does Harper's Ferry play out? Because that's kind of an interesting story to me as well.
Yeah.
With the way everything transpires with Dixon Miles, right?
Right.
And him being killed, and
Yeah, very unfortunate. Although maybe it was good that he didn't have to suffer through the indignation of being the scapegoat.
right, because what did they call there's a particular brigade that leaves there that makes that kind of
Ward's brigade.
redefines themselves here at Gettysburg, right?
Oh yes, the Harpers Ferry Cowards.
The Yellow Legs, right? Is that what they call it? The Yellow Legs, or they had another slang name for them? But yes, the Harpers Ferry
Yes,
Cowards,
who did very well here
right,
at
right.
Gettysburg.
And I think that's part of the. I know a lot of movies and books will play it up as that was like they were motivated by that. But I think that
Yeah.
there's probably some truth to that.
Mhm.
They wanted to get past that reputation of being the cowards of Harper's Ferry.
Right, right.
But anyway, so how does Harper? Because we know Jackson has the three elements
So they're
positioned.
coming from three sides.
Yeah.
And the key is the heights. So they're trying. Dixon Miles is trying to make sure that the Confederates don't get on those heights. He's not worried about Loudon Heights. He feels it's too far away, and it's too steep,
They won't be able to depress their cannons
and they
enough.
won't be able. And they're not going to be able to get up there. So he doesn't even defend that. He's going to send a brigade up under Thomas, and I'm blanking on his last name. But he's going to, and he was an attorney before the war, and he gets up there with a brigade, and he wants to fortify, certain positions. And Dixon Miles says, no, no, no. He wants a battery. No, you can't have it. Everything's no, no, no. And so he's actually fighting with his one hand behind his back. And what happens is, as he expects, the Confederates are going to come up and start marching along. It's called Elk Ridge. And at the bottom, at the base of Elk Ridge, that's overlooking Harper's Ferry, is Maryland Heights.
Mm.
And there's going to be intense fighting that's going to be happening, trying to stop the Confederates from taking Maryland Heights. And there's some confusion because according to Dixon Miles, he said, hold that position. Do not relinquish that position. And I'm just going to, as I'm talking, I'm going to look at this because it's frustrating. It's a senior moment.
Well, also you got so much stuff up there. You got so much knowledge on the battle. They get intermixed sometimes.
Yeah, it's Thomas Ford.
Okay.
So Thomas Ford's up there. Thomas Ford had the impression that he was given discretionary orders that I can vacate the heights if necessary.
To save his men.
Yes. Dixon Miles sees him coming down in the afternoon and says, holy crap, what are they doing? My God, what are they doing? And so, but they've been fighting for a while, and they're getting flanked. And could they have held out? Probably not.
Not well, because how many men are they facing up there?
Well, you've got Joseph Kershaw's men marching along Elk Ridge, so it's a frontal attack.
Mm-hmm.
And then William Barksdale's Mississippi Brigade is coming up the side of the mountain, flanking them. And these are could be the two best brigades that Lee has in his army.
They're very experienced.
Very much so, and they're good fighters. South Carolinians, Mississippians. So he comes down, and lo and behold, the Confederates are able to pull I don't know how. If you look at those heights, they get cannon up on both of those heights. And then Jackson's going to come up from the west, and he's going to take Schoolhouse Ridge. And you've got this ring of cannon that are now overlooking Harper's Ferry. Now, Dixon Miles has Camp Hill. Camp Hill is an elevated area within the town, and he's got big cannon there.
That's
big
where all
cannon.
the cannon monuments are now, right?
Yes, a few, yeah. There is a cannon there, for instance. There's Bolivar Heights, where that's what the main defensive area is going to be.
That's where Dixon Miles is killed?
No, he's actually going to be killed in the town.
Okay.
But what happens is you have, if I can sort of show with my hands, You've got Maryland Heights, Loudoun Heights. You have Harpers Ferry, and you have Schoolhouse Ridge. And facing Schoolhouse Ridge is Bolivar Heights. And earlier on the war, there was Stonewall Jackson was, I think it was 1861, was attacking Harpers Ferry from the west, and the commander of the garrison at that point had fortified Bolivar Heights, which is not as high as all of the other heights. And he wrote, I guess by rote, said, "I'm going to do the same thing." So most of his men are, this is Dixon Miles' men, are on along this Bolivar Heights, and when Ford comes down, he's also going to join them. So you've got this line of Union troops that are facing Stonewall Jackson, but behind them are going to be Maryland Heights and Loudoun Heights. No small arms fire, but cannon fire is coming from them.
Which is going to be, it would be devastating. Those positions, if listeners or viewers get a chance to go out to Harpers Ferry and see it go down to where they have the John Brown's fort.
Yes.
In Harpers Ferry,
and you
and
can
look up at the heights.
Yeah,
it is.
It's daunting.
You're like in a fishbowl. I mean, it is the worst situation I could think of.
Right.
For an infantry guy.
Yes.
Being engaged by artillery.
So two things happen that are the downfall of the garrison. One is they've got these, Union has some big cannon up on Camp Hill. And one thing that's interesting is inexperienced cannoneers do not like to be under enemy fire. And so they're going to fire off their ammunition as fast as they can. Henry Hunt will talk a lot about this. He'll ride around and he'll say to the men, this is the Army of Potomac, do you know each shell is $3.40 or whatever? And he's stopping them from firing as fast as they can so they can get the heck out of there.
That's so funny. That rocket case behind you there. We are our higher ups in the Marine Corps used to tell us how much those cost at the time for I think the same reason, because each one of those is like $100 and something thousand to get.
Something crazy.
That being said, when we got to Marjo, that didn't stop us. I mean, you wanted to shoot them, but
right.
But it's funny. The same technique is still used to this day to get people from
indeed
expending their ammo unnecessarily
and then getting the heck out of there. And so that morning of the 15th, Dixon Miles realizes they're out of ammunition, this long-range ammunition. So he's screwed there. And then the initial line on Bolivar Heights, the main defensive position, was, let's say, here. And it's very rough terrain by the Shenandoah River. And he said there's no way that Confederate troops, infantry, are going to be able to get over that rough terrain. So my line's going to be here. It's not going to extend. Well, here's A.P. Hill.
This is one of the most fascinating parts of this
coming
battle
up this way.
to me.
Yes. So he has to extend his line, really thin his line, and what the killer is during the night, Jackson's chief of artillery, Crutchfield, is going to take 11 cannon, across the Shenandoah River and put them on a ledge. And so here you're facing the Confederates, but behind you
are cannons.
Are 11 cannon who are enfilading your line.
So Laura, I did the road to Antietam, and which is, for those that aren't aware, the road to Antietam is a guide, like a licensed battlefield guide tour that you can get from the bookstore there at the National Battlefield at Antietam. And she took me to Harpers Ferry, and she's showing me all the spots, and then she walked me over and showed me where they moved the cannons up.
Right.
I don't know how they did it. I mean, at nighttime too. That's
right.
The hill they get those cannons up. Tommy, it's so steep, dude.
Yep.
It's unbelievable. And those cannon are not light. It takes a ton of dudes to get it up there.
It is amazing how they were able. And Maryland Heights, Loudoun Heights, the same way.
Could you imagine being in the Union guys, though, and waking up in the morning and those cannons being right there? Because it's not far away either.
No.
I mean, they're almost from the naked eye and from what I remember of being there, it seems like they're almost within canister range. I mean, they are close. They're not quite in canister range, but
probably about a mile or so.
But it's not
it's not that far,
and it's an open field between the two of them.
That's right. That's right.
So clear fields of view. And all that.
So what happens then is Dixon Miles says, "I'm screwed. I've got no long range ammunition. The Confederates are flanking me. It's just a matter of time. And it doesn't look like I'm going to be rescued." And so he's going to capitulate. In fact, he tells all his men, pull out your white something, whether it's your underwear or handkerchiefs, and start waving. And apparently those guns, those 11 guns, may not have gotten the signal that they had surrendered. And they're going to launch some cannon fire into the town, and part of Dixon Miles' leg is going to get blown off. In fact, I think the skin, actually, the muscle gets sheared off the bone.
Yikes.
And he's going to die in excruciating pain, I believe, the following day.
Ugh.
So he's the convenient scapegoat. It's not McClellan. It's not Henry Halleck. It's not John Wool. He becomes the scapegoat because he can't defend himself.
They did, it's funny because McClellan did the same thing. I know that this might not have been McClellan, in just solely making him the scapegoat, but the same thing happens from McClellan and one of his junior officers at what's the battle that happened right across across the Potomac River down there.
You mean during the Maryland campaign?
No, this is early in the war. This is right after. I think it's right after Manassas.
Oh, okay.
It's a massacre almost. The guys are running into the river trying to get away.
Ball's Bluff.
Ball's Bluff, yes. The commander of that expedition.
That's right.
He's the
Baker.
scapegoat, and McClellan gets out of that one scot-free.
Yes,
just about.
that's true.
So it's interesting that kind of happening again here.
Oh yeah.
So one of the more interesting stories now, because after that, obviously the Union garrison surrenders, and A.P. Hill is tasked with
stays behind.
What do they call? What do they call that? What they did to them, where they exchange them back to the Union?
They're going to parole them.
Parole them, yeah. So he's in charge of that. But one of my favorite stories from that portion of the Maryland campaign is Benjamin Davis. And,
yes.
His escape, and then also him capturing the guns. I think that's so cool, man. It
really
cool,
is,
especially because he's from Mississippi, correct?
That's right.
So he's got the deep Southern accent. What did you tell the story for our listeners, just so they know what we're talking about here?
So he's a cavalry commander, and he's like Buford. Buford is a tough cookie, and no nonsense, and he knows that Dixon Miles is not going to be able to hold out. And he's got about 1,200, 1,300 cavalrymen. He wants to escape. He does not want to get captured.
Like Forrest did from Nathan Bedford Forrest at Fort Donelson. Same kind of situation.
And so he's trying to convince Dixon Miles to let him go. And Dixon Miles doesn't want any part of it. Finally, he does convince him. And in the dead of the night, they're going to be crossing over the Potomac River. And actually, some of them make a right turn and head toward the Confederates.
Oh, no.
In the confusion. But they're going to cross over and head north toward Sharpsburg. They actually march right into Sharpsburg. And they were going to continue up toward Hagerstown, and they get a report that there are rebels in the area. So they're going to head over toward Williamsport. And as they're heading toward Williamsport, lo and behold, here is James Longstreet's ordnance trains. And he's going to capture, I don't know how many wagons, lots of cannon, lots of wagons. And he's going to ride with those wagons up into Greencastle, Pennsylvania.
And how he does it
Wow.
is so funny, too, because it seems like something out of a Disney movie almost, like the older, like the Davy Crockett movie and all. It seems like something funny that would happen almost. Because from my understanding, him being from Mississippi, he's got this deep Southern accent.
Yeah.
They ride up on this convoy in the middle of the night, and they can't see the uniforms that they're wearing.
Right.
And he tells them in his Southern voice to change directions.
Right.
And so they listen, thinking, because of his voice, he's a Southern cavalry commander.
Right,
He's their escort. And when the sun comes up, the convoy of ordnance and cannon and all that are very surprised when it's
Yes.
blue-clad Union soldiers with their pistols
pretty
drawn
cool.
on them.
Right, it is.
And that's
How
how
about
he
that?
captures the convoy. I just it's so funny to me. I mean, the craziest things happen in war, coincidence and luck and all that. I mean, it's interesting.